The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. I'm Erica Lukes, and I'm always so happy to be here. I can't think of a better way to start off your weekend than, hanging out with me and listening to some really, really great information. Tonight's show is going to be stellar. I'm happy you're here. I want to give you a little Erica Lukes 411 for the week. I have had, of course, always an exciting week. It's so much fun around these parts. I'm putting together a great organization in Utah, and we are encompassing a lot of different areas. So we have a world-renowned cryptozoologist, Bruce Champagne, who will be heading up the cryptozoology side of things. And then we have an amazing paranormal team that is heading up that and giving us lots of good research. And then the UFO team, which, would be me and Dave Rosenfeld and Jeff Cox. We're going to have an incredible organization here, and I'm excited to organize conferences and bring in some of the leading people from all over the world to come to Utah, because we all know this is truly one of the strangest places on earth. And I'm not just talking about the politics. So we got to get some research done. If you go to my website, ufoclassified.com, I've made some changes, and I now have a report a UFO sighting form. So if you have a UFO sighting, please get in there, share that with me, videos, photos. If you have orange orb sightings, you know how much I love researching the orange orb, so please share those with me. All of the data that we can collect will help us put the pieces of the puzzle together, and this is vital to figuring out what is truly taking place here. I also have become a rep for Luna Optics. So now I am going to be using their equipment, recommending some really cool stuff so you can get out there and get your own night vision video and start doing field research. It's cool. So go to the website, ufoclassified.com, and see my recommended piece of infrared technology that you can use. And you can buy it there. Send me questions or comments. And then also I have my favorite book recommendations. So my friend Nick Redfern has a new book out. His book is on there, Women in Black, along with Night Orbs and my favorite UFO books. So go there, check it out, give me your feedback. You can always find me on Facebook at ufoclassified.com. And with all of that out of the way, I am absolutely thrilled to have my guest here tonight, because he is the definition of a Renaissance man. He has traveled the world on amazing adventures, searching for strange and elusive creatures, lost treasures. He has scaled the Himalayas, and he has been in the Amazon jungles. He's staved off, crocodile attacks, that his crew, they had a little run-in, I think, with some creatures down there. It's pretty cool. We'll hear those stories. He has been very, very concerned from the time he was young about indigenous peoples, and has taken special interest in Native American and First Nation cultures worldwide. He is a television and independent documentary filmmaker, an award-winning documentary and television filmmaker. So I'm so lucky to have him here. He takes a special interest in wildlife, travel adventure, cryptozoology, and environmental issues. He's an executive producer and has written, directed dozens of international award-winning series and specials over his 30-year career. He has Gryphon, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, productions company with his wife and partner, Shira. He has done shows for Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, History Channel, BBC, National Geographic, Discovery Channel, TLC, PBS. Super cool. Peter, I am so happy to have you here. I don't even know where to begin with you. And you're a musician.
That's true. I am. I've been playing guitar since I was 12. That's another love of mine. But I'm happy to be here and talk to you a little bit today.
Oh, yes. You know, you have a brand new show out that will actually be debuting in the fall, and that it is causing a pretty big controversy. When I first saw a post my friend Ruben Uriarte put on his Facebook about killing Bigfoot, I have to say that I was a little taken aback because, you know, being an animal lover I am. I mean, I just, you know, kind of recoil in fear. And so my first instinct was, okay, let's light the get the pitchforks out, light the torches. And then I began to research began to find out more about this show. And I really understand that there's so many layers to what you're doing here on your show. Will you tell us a little bit about Killing Bigfoot and what you're doing?
Sure. Well, you know, you've done a good job of setting up my, my background, my work in wildlife, and you know, we've actually been in situations where we've been charged by large, potentially man-eating tigers and things like that, and man-eating crocs for sure, because we were moving 1-ton Nile crocodiles out of the swamps in Uganda 2 years ago and moving them to safety and basically helping to save a village where some of these crocs are taking a person a week or a cow a week. So we're used to the idea of coming in to situations where there's large, formidable animals, often, you know, subject to, the degradation of forests, the rise of human populations, and other human interference, which causes them to come into territories where people are in, and that often creates conflict. So, as you can imagine, I was quite interested in this world down in the southern U.S., Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, where people have been reporting attacks by Bigfoot, and seemingly a creature that's very different from, you know, Harry and the Hendersons, very different from what people have been taught to believe and have learned from, say, the Pacific Northwest, which, according to the men that we're working with, the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, that this creature is very different. Like, you know, with wildlife, you typically animals in northern colder climates are bigger. For example, Siberian tigers are significantly bulkier than Bengal tigers, and just heftier. And the same is true with bears and other animals. So they feel the same is true for Bigfoot. So as a result, what you have is people phoning in to the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization. Has been around for 20 years, which makes it, if not the oldest, one of, the oldest in the country for researching Bigfoot. So originally met these guys in 2009, and we were pitching it to networks, and there were no shows on Bigfoot on television yet, although we produced Sasquatch Odyssey, which is kind of a classic about the history of the search for Bigfoot.
Yes, it is a classic. It's awesome.
And we did that in 1999 on TLC, and there weren't even any reality shows yet. But by the time we pitched Monster Hunters in 2001, it was the first groups of paranormal investigators, crypto investigators on TV. But so by the time we got to '09 and we'd met the GCBRO and we were hoping to do it, and the networks were quite reluctant. And the other thing was they said no one's going to watch a bunch of rednecks on TV. And of course, since then,
Duck Dynasty,
had Duck Dynasty, and we've had other. And I say this in the best possible way because these guys refer to themselves as rednecks, but you know what? They're a great bunch of guys. They're family guys. They're lifelong hunters in the sense that they're not trophy hunters. They, like many people I've met in the South, they're dependent on the forest and the woods, and I mean they eat anything that they kill. So deer and wild feral hogs are rampant. I did another show on feral hogs for another show. There's 8 million in the U.S. running across 40 states, and they're really a problem, and they're quite dangerous. So you might say these guys are doing a service. A deer, the most dangerous animal in America, causing more deaths to humans than any other. That's a favorite party question, and the answer is deer, because there's so many of them now. Where we've done the deforestation, they move into gardens and other areas and are eating our plants, and so people are running into them all the time. So anyway, this leads us back to killing Bigfoot, and eventually in 2014 we repitched it. Now there was interest, and we were happy that Destination America came on board, Travel and Escape in Canada, and we were able to produce a pilot. People seemed to like it, and I don't want to yak all day here, so you can ask me another question. But
I love it. I mean, seriously, you've told me so many stories, and I want you to share all of them, and it's so fascinating. So keep on talking.
Sure. Well, I mean, the bottom line is this, that I love interesting people and interesting worlds. And, you know, as you say, the response to Killing Bigfoot, the title, which was not our first choice, but the networks felt that it would be good for attracting viewers. The response is sometimes quite visceral, as you can imagine, and people are upset at the idea of shooting a Bigfoot. I think what's important to note, again, as I say, these guys are not bloodthirsty monsters. And one of the things that we're showing in our show is we're showing all sides of this question. And so if you think of these guys as the Ghostbusters who come in to help people deal with their Bigfoot problem, right? And there are we met a lot of genuinely terrified people. And these guys come in, and as they say in the show, often just their presence is enough to scare off the monsters, as they call them. And they're not out to shoot every single Bigfoot that they see. What they've said is they want to help protect people's property and homes, particularly if pets and farm animals have been getting killed, as they seem to be, and people are being terrified with, you know, creatures pounding on their walls of their house at night. I'm talking about in the middle of nowhere, that if you were a person and trying to hoax someone and do this, you'd probably get shot, because you're in places where people don't take kindly to strangers showing up on their property in the middle of the night, pounding on the walls.
Well, do you remember that fellow, it was like a couple years ago, who had the Bigfoot costume on? And I'm trying to remember the whole story, but he either got hit by a car or something happened.
There was a guy in a ghillie suit who was killed crossing the road.
Oh my God.
And so one of the things I like to point out, again, these guys are, you know, they're thoughtful. These are not, you know, they've individually had experiences. Some of the members have had personal, often terrifying experiences with Bigfoot, such as in Oklahoma. They're not out to, like the proverbial guys with the pitchforks and the flaming torches, to destroy the monster. What they want to do is they want to help people. And then if they see, you know, everyone is arguing about what this creature is, and yet no one really knows exactly what it is because it's never been proven scientifically. So if you go by the current rules of science, such as the Smithsonian, and we point this out on one of the shows, the science demands a body, and they call them voucher specimens. And they, even the most recent studies by Oxford, where they tested many hares, 40, 45 hares, and they thought there was one from a Yeti that could have been an ancient polar bear, but then that was disproven. So the DNA results, even at the highest level of testing, such as Oxford University, are inconclusive. Photographic evidence is too easy to doctor now from the days of the Patterson film when you had no Photoshop type techniques and you had film quality, which was even higher than what we have today. Overall, the only solution is to have an Oxford scientist said this as well. He says we need a body or we need a piece of a body. And so that's all these hunters are saying is if there's one of these rogue males, and they're not going to shoot a female or a young one, there's one of these rogue males that's been causing a problem, and they happen to get it in their sights, they're going to take one specimen, and it's not for fame or glory. They just want to prove it's real. They want to have a body on the slab, as they say, for science to study. And then they're hoping that the government or whoever, states, create preserves for Bigfoot. And once we know it's real, for sure, 100% proven by science, and then create protected areas for them. And that's what they're out to do.
That's interesting. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if we were, we make new discoveries on our planet every day. And I think our first instinct isn't to kill it and bag it and bring it back in. I think, gosh, what was it? A few months ago, we discovered a new tribe, that was deep in the jungles. And I don't know if we would go in and kill one of them and bring it back to study for science sake. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it does pose some questions to me that,
Well, there you hit a very interesting and fundamental question in the show. And it's one I've been tackling since Sasquatch Odyssey, when we actually filmed a mock trial in Skamania County in Washington, where the law had just been passed that you couldn't shoot a Bigfoot. And that was in 98, 99. So the idea is it ape or is it human? And if it's an ape, killing one would be a misdemeanor. And if it's a human, it's murder. So because nobody really knows for sure, right? I mean, this is what the GCBRO would say. Since nobody really knows for sure, you can't really compare it to a tribe of people since you don't really know. I mean, GCBRO believes, based on their evidence, that it's not human. Now, we have a rival group of people that are in our show, and we present, I mean, this is very different from any other Bigfoot show on the air. It's not just all about the guys all the time. We also present the conflicting view, and for example, Dr. Webb-Sintel, who's a neuropsychologist and an avid defender of Bigfoot, used to be a member of the GCBRO, and he feels they are human. He's lent his expertise to Melba Ketchum and her work regarding DNA studies of Bigfoot, and they feel, although it hasn't been 100% approved by scientists, they feel they have enough DNA that proves it's human. And they're constantly looking for that approval from the scientific community. So we have Webb-Sintel and other individuals such as Rick Cruz and Farland Huff, who runs the Hanobia Bigfoot Conference. And we present their position and also how they prefer to, quote, hunt for Bigfoot, which is less of a hunt than a experience of interacting with these creatures in the forest, where they might play flute to it or leave food out for it and treat them like they might a lost tribe of people.
So neat. You do an excellent job representing both sides. And I think that's important because I understand, to me, I can understand both sides. I mean, you've got people that are terrified. They don't know what this is. They don't understand it. They don't know if there's any help available for them. And so they just want it to stop. And then, you have people that are conservationists that really care about interacting with it. And I think that it brings up a lot of issues too. Is this really, is this an interdimensional creature? Is this something, are there bigger questions with regard to this? So it's so cool.
Yeah, that's what I have always loved about the topic. And, my original interest in all of this came about from a lifelong connection to Native Americans and the work. I grew up in basically a ranch and a resort on the river up here in Vancouver, Canada, outside the city, and was introduced to tribal leaders and cultural, medicine people and all that sort of thing from an early age. And, Sasquatch, of course, comes from British Columbia. The term is a Salish Indian word, actually from the Kokalitsa tribe near Harrison Hot Springs. And, it references the word for big and strong in their language. And then it was coined, there was a newspaper man in the 20s that basically took it and popularized the term Sasquatch. So this is the birthplace of the creature in the public's mind, is from British Columbia. In 1958, the BC government had a centennial, 100 years of British Columbia, and they organized, as a publicity stunt, a hunt for this Sasquatch. And so we had some of the characters who are in Sasquatch Odyssey, like John Green and Renee DeHinden. They came down for that, and then shortly thereafter, the footprints were found in Northern California in Willow Creek, and they went down there, and they started interacting with the road crew that was there.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool. And I'm just gotta cut you off right there because we're gonna get ready to take a break, but this is very, very interesting, and I can't wait to hear more about it. And thank you again. I'm here with Pierre Van Puttkamer, and we are talking about his new show, Killing Bigfoot. We're going to be right back in a couple minutes, so stick around.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Where'd that shot come from?
Alpha 3 to Eagle 1. We've got company.
From Tay Publishing, codename Eagle Force, the saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TayPublishing.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. You can find me at ufoclassified.com. I've got some great things going on my website now and some fun adventures in my personal UFO research life. I am here tonight with a man that is truly just, the more I learn about him, the more I want to know, because he's had grand adventures. He's done some really important things in his 30 years as a filmmaker, and I'm so happy to have Peter von Puttkamer back here tonight. But Peter has a new show out that is pushing a lot of buttons, and we were talking on the break about people getting very, very irate and being pretty nasty, which I know we're not shocked that people can be that way. Killing Bigfoot is making its debut this fall on Destination America, and it poses some very complex questions about whether if you saw a creature, an unknown creature like Bigfoot, would you kill it or would you save it in the name of science and research? Peter, welcome back. And you were saying that there was a couple areas that you wanted to go on the break, specifically with, where did the Bigfoot, tell us about the origins of Bigfoot.
Sure. I mean, of course, if you go into Native American stories and not just legends, but actual, oral accounts, it goes back as long as, there's an oral record by the native people. So I'll give you two examples. There's, the ones that have been recorded by Westerners or Europeans. So David Thompson, the explorer in the 1820s, was in the Rocky Mountains, and this guy is a trapper. Like, he crossed the whole of Canada. He's quite famous for his exploits, and he found some tracks, and they were pointed out to him by his native guides at the time that these guys had spent a lifetime in the woods, and they're going, okay, these aren't grizzly bears. This is something different. And he made a note of it in his journal, and that was probably the first time it was referenced in modern sort of pioneering days. And of course, as I say in my background, I've been filming in potlatch ceremonies of the West Coast. I've been granted probably some of the best access ever, and been compared to Edward Curtis a little bit from the early work that I did filming Aboriginal people and getting access to these ceremonies. And some of the ones that we filmed, we could see this creature basically. There's the buckwoos, wild man of the woods, and Zunaqua, wild woman, are clearly representational of Sasquatch-like creatures. And they did specific things that have been referenced not just here, but throughout North America and around the world. And that is the stories of wild man stealing away with children. And Zunaqua, in the ceremony, her thing is she has a basket on her back, and she's gesturing because in the legend she picks up children that are lost in the forest. She throws them in her basket. She puts pitch in their eyes so they're blinded, and she takes them back to her cave where she can eat them. And that's the story of the Aboriginal Zunaqua. Not so dissimilar from Hansel and Gretel, actually. So this is where you get into the argument of archetypes and, is this, as Joseph Campbell talks about, merely an archetype tied into our, universal connection to these symbols, such as dragons and other symbols worldwide.
Oh, Joseph Campbell was such a fascinating man, and Jung, and I mean, there are just so many great thinkers, and I think that raises a good question. How do you feel about that?
Well, I know when I interviewed, many people know about Rene Dahinden because he was quite a character on the Bigfoot circuit, and he owned half the rights to the Patterson footage, particularly the still images, along with Mrs. Patterson. And he would just say that he didn't buy any of the Aboriginal accounts because he felt they were all mythological. They were all legends. They weren't tied to Bigfoot on the ground in the bush. And, this is where you get into this discussion of, is it a spirit being? Does it have psychic abilities? Does it move between dimensions? And that's very much, in some cases, the Aboriginal, beliefs. And then of course, many groups, such as the ones we find in Louisiana, Webb Sintel is associated with, the Friends of the Forest people, who also feel that these are, gentle tribal people and maybe do have abilities to transmit sounds and other types of energy that can even be harmful to people if they so choose.
What do you think? Because I've heard so many stories about this being such a gentle, kind creature that just wants to be left alone, and then you hear the opposing stories. But how do you feel with all of your interactions with everyone that you've worked with in your career and what you've seen?
Well, I would say it sounds as if, depending on which part of the country you're in, you get different accounts. So, again, as I say, in the Pacific Northwest, they mostly seem to be benign encounters. And even I've talked to some of my Native friends, First Nations friends in Canada, and they're up mountain goat hunting and things like that, not that far from Vancouver, and they tell me that they've seen the creature high up on ridges. And to them, to the Salish people, at least, that this was a good thing, that this was a good sign, good luck, and all that sort of thing. But they also have stories real stories, and I mean not legends, but oral history passed on, say, from the 20s and 30s of Bigfoot being mischievous, stealing fish off the line, like they're hanging fish up at a fish camp to dry on lines, and a Bigfoot came in and just took them all. They watched it. It actually lifted every fish off and ran off with it. Things like that I've heard. But in the South, I will say that the people we meet, and these are bona fide eyewitnesses, and that they are very scared, and that they're talking about something more aggressive, and that one guy we talked to had 6 or 7 pit bulls taken in his yard. I've done shows about big cats on the loose in England, actually, and a cat has a very different type of attack, and wild dogs just rip things apart and leave them in pieces. But we're talking about animals, ferocious guard dog type animals disappearing off of chains that you'd need a truck to break.
And it when you talk about some of these oral traditions that were passed on and some of these things, it really makes me think about skinwalkers and just the different legends, the oral traditions that have been passed on from Native Americans about skinwalkers and different things. And I think that to me, the more I learn about the skinwalker, the more I'm absolutely convinced it's very, very real. Even though I think there's more proof for Bigfoot, but I think there's just something that we're dealing with we don't understand. And in many, many cases, you have Bigfoot sightings with UFO sightings.
Yeah.
So have you heard any stories about that?
I have. I know that I'll call them the on-the-ground researchers, people like the GCBRO, people like Peter Byrne, who are, Peter Byrne used to track tigers back in the day when it was still popular to shoot tigers. Then he became a conservationist. But so they think it's nonsense. They think that it's any idea that, because I've heard things like they could be alien pets. I personally, from the sound of it, I'm more in line with the idea that they've been around a long time. We've heard, the stories of the Anunnaki and, the Star People, and we've heard ideas that, like, how did we come to be here? And that the original, hominid type creatures on the planet might have been hair covered creatures like Bigfoot. We don't really know, but that's been speculated. What I will say is that we had, as a crew, and the crew, we've all worked together on wildlife shows, and some of our crew, in fact, have been hunters and bow hunters and things in Europe and what have you. And so they go in with, an open mind, but also willing to be skeptical about things. And we had a couple of things happen over the course of the filming that has kind of made people think or outright change their minds about what it is that's out there.
Ooh, you've got to give us more detail.
Yeah. So in one case, we were in somebody's ranch home that was jutting out into the forest in southeast Texas and near the big thicket. And so there's 300 or so square miles of thick brush, woodland, swamps. And I even met some of the local Alabama Coushatta tribe people who told us that, yes, in fact, this creature's in there. And they refer to them as the cannibal people. And they're quite scared of them. And they're tall and they're huge. And the stories go back centuries. And 3 firemen there told us that they had seen them while fighting fires recently in the last year or two. So it's in this area close by that this woman has had, and it's one of our episodes, where this animal or several animals have been running onto the property, banging on the walls, possibly grabbing her dog at one point. And the lady, Anna, has fired after the creature, thinks she might have hit one, wasn't sure. But it's been that kind of ongoing attack. It seems to know when her husband's not there. And again, this lady is tough as nails. Like no human would walk onto this property to do this, because she's just going to get the gun out and start firing. So nobody is going to keep returning to hoax something knowing they could get shot. And it's quite legal to shoot trespassers down there on your property. So there seems to be something coming in. So one late night, we're there, my wife Shira and her assistant Sissy, who's been in the Army, were there waiting. We were all out filming, and 2 of the hunters were back with them. And all of a sudden, about 11:30 at night, and we're in the middle of nowhere here, okay? And it's just woods, and it's 11:30, and all of a sudden her surveillance lights come on. The dog barks. They see something moving with purpose and some speed, upright, thick neck, and they were trying to determine if it was was walking by this chicken shack that she has in the yard, because what they were seeing was a large silhouetted shape walking from the lit surveillance light across the yard and maybe within 100 yards of them. And after it passed, and they both looked at each other and they independently went, "Did you see that?" And they're like, "Yeah." "And do you think that was Bigfoot?" And they were like, "Maybe." And they went up and they measured this. It was actually a horse trailer that was 8 or 9 feet tall, and it was on the same height as that. And so we could rule out any of the hunters because they were all out, and the other 2 were with them. And my wife felt that if it had wanted to attack and kill them, it could have done so with some ease. But it just kept moving. Then again, there was knowledge that there were guns there, and, there was that as well. So it was very strange.
Oh, I bet that was very disconcerting. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you ever get the sense that this could be perhaps some extraterrestrial or something like that?
Well, I don't think in this instance, I mean, there's just been these consistent stories about this being a Bigfoot, or the giants, the cannibal giants, as they're referred to by the local tribe. And so it's not really, and the aliens, I don't think in this case really come into it.
The only reason I bring that up is, like I said, I always go back to my research with regard to Skinwalker Ranch. And, you see different types of phenomena all together. And that's what makes it so, you just scratch your head like, what? You've got a Bigfoot sighting with UFOs and then strange creatures. I mean, everything you would ever think about is in one location. So I just wonder if there's anything like that that would go on in these areas where you're having Bigfoot sightings.
Well, I mean, I think it's, it is possible. I will say it's not something the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization really wants to get involved in.
Well, maybe I need to come down there and talk to him then.
We actually had one incident where we were on someone's property, and in fact, all of that did come to a head. And we had something like Bigfoot nests, which you'll see in the show. And nests, and I'm talking about hanging nests that kind of resembled things I'd seen in Africa with gorillas. And that's never been filmed before. I mean, we got some firsts for this show. The other one was on our final shoot. And I'm talking about an interesting encounter where we had been hearing about smaller creatures, perhaps smaller Bigfoot and that sort of thing. And one had been sighted near someone's ranch where they had dogs and kennels. And one of their dogs had been badly mauled, let's just say. Not claw marks like from a cougar or something, but its jaw was broken. It's like it had been picked up and hurled. And this is a large, maybe 150-pound German Shepherd. And so we went back to this area of the church where earlier that day they had seen one of these smaller creatures walking. And so that was, I guess, the next day we were there after their sighting. And we were there waiting around. People came up to us, talked to us. We were waiting for some eyewitnesses to show up. And I just, by chance, said, hey, why don't you guys, a couple of guys, go in the woods and look around a little. Maybe you'll see something. Maybe we'll get some clues. And one of them, Don had a GoPro on his head, and Bear and my cameraman, Bobby, went off in another direction. They agreed to meet up. Bear is quite a large guy. You can't really miss his shape when you're out in the woods. And Don was out off in the other direction, and you see this on the clip that's on the website, killingbigfoot.com. And when he got back, Don said something was tracking me. I would stop, and it would stop, and then I'd start, and I could hear it crashing, moving, crackling through the bushes a bit. Not sure what it was. Why don't we have a look at my GoPro? And so when we got back, we're pretty sure we could see something on there. We were looking at it, and then the best view is really when we got back in the editing room and started looking on a big screen, and you could see a bipedal creature walking, tracking, and like I say, the humans in the area had walked up to us and talked to us. But here's something tall, slender, so it's not Bear, and it looks like an ovoid-shaped head. Now it's from a GoPro, so they're super wide. We're blowing it up 400%, but you can make it out. And if you go step by step, you see this sort of hunched over figure, and it's hiding behind a tree. Like it's actually waiting till Dawn starts to move again, and then it steps forward. And then eventually you see the split in the legs and it walks off. I think it's some of the best, most provocative Bigfoot footage I've ever seen.
It is. I watched it today. It was pretty incredible. So if you guys are out, if you're by your computer, which we know you are because you're listening to the show, please go to the site and watch this video. I mean, it's what, a 2-minute video?
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to put in all of the background, sort of the behind-the-scenes part of it, because, in this day and age, like I say, nobody believes footage or it's a guy in a suit or whatever. But in this case, and we do, and people will know that we did it in the first show, like we do recreations, and recreations of what people have seen and eyewitness accounts and things like that. But in this case, there wasn't anyone else out there. We weren't hoaxing. Like I said, if we wanted to hoax something, we would have shot it with one of our really nice cameras and a big long lens. I don't know why I would go to the trouble of hoaxing something on a horrible, grainy-looking GoPro that we had to blow up for 500%. And that's what I liked about it. To me, that's even more convincing because you just catch it. And there it is. So,
and that it does bring up a good question, because we see the same thing with UFO research. We're looking through videos on YouTube, and Okay, great. So you've got the CGI stuff going on, and then you've got, in my opinion, a lot of really good, important stuff that gets overlooked because people look at it for 2 seconds and say, oh, that's a hoax. And they don't even investigate it further. And I think it's too bad that people get so kind of complacent with their investigations in a way.
And you know what? That's the irony of the older stuff. So when you go back in history, you'd say something like the Patterson film and other types of things that I've done, like anti-gravity. There's the films of John Hutchison we featured in a show on anti-gravity. And, you know, that shows objects flying through the air. It shows 8 nails gathering together on a table and flying off. It shows 20-pound steel balls levitating. It shows aluminum foil starting out as a sheet and crumpling into a ball in front of your eyes and flying through the air. You cannot, this was shot on Super 8 and VHS and stuff, and you cannot fake that stuff. And the Pentagon and the Los Alamos labs thought it was convincing too and sent a team up to study it for that reason. So in the old days, you could film things and it could be taken quite seriously. But now, you know, it's much harder because, you know, so much is possible digitally. And which brings us back to the argument of the GCVRO, which is you got to have a body. And
exactly.
And the hair doesn't do it. We did lots of DNA on this show. We had all kinds of testing of hairs and things, and it's so hard to get stuff that does not have human contamination unless you've got a CSI team doing a gathering.
Exactly. And I want to talk a little bit about that. We're going to head to a break. I've got great questions in the chat room. We're going to get to those, Bill, so hang on. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Erica Lukes. We're here with Peter von Puttkamer talking about killing Bigfoot and much, much more. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm just sitting here on break getting constant text messages from my friends that are at Contact in the Desert. My friend Karen is sending me pictures of Travis Walton, who's speaking right now, and Nick Redfern's telling me that he is having a fantastic time, and it's the best event he's been to at Joshua Tree. So I'm glad they're having fun. I wish I could be there, and I'm definitely not going to miss it next year. But right now, I have an intriguing man on my show. Peter van Puttkamer is a world-renowned, a very respected, award-winning director, filmmaker. He has had some amazing experiences that I think if any of us in our lifetime could have maybe just one or half of one, we would have lived a fulfilled life. He has got a new show that will be debuting on Destination America this fall that has raised quite the stir. It's called Killing Bigfoot, but he does an excellent job at bridging the gap between both sides and really showing the issues with finding something new out there. And I think this crosses over into the UFO side of things too. What would we do if we found an alien life form? I think it's all fascinating. So Peter, welcome back to the show. And I really appreciate you being here. This is a lot of fun.
Sure. No, I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And our chat room, I've got my friends in chat, and they are always so awesome with the questions. And I know that Bill, my friend who has a great YouTube channel, Bill Skywatcher, Bill New York Skywatcher, wants to know what do you think about the Patterson footage?
Well, I think it's most people, the general public, and that's another discussion we can have about the general public's perception of Bigfoot versus, the little more insular group that, we often end up talking to on your show or Coast to Coast or something like that. The general public, wrote it off a long time ago as a suit, mostly because there were a series of things that came out in the 90s and early 2000s about Ray Wallace, and he did the tracks, and that we spotted a zipper with this digital photography, and all this kind of thing. I will say that the footage has not ever been disproven. I think there's so many interesting things about it when you go to particular frames and you see the musculature of the animal. We talked to Stan Winston, who designed Predator and Alien, and at one point for our show for Sasquatch Odyssey, and those guys, some were skeptical, but a lot of them were impressed at the fact that the skin and the musculature seemed to move as the animal moved, and if it's a baggy kind of Halloween suit. And I've done my share of recreations for dramatic purposes with suits and things like that. And they can look really, really bad, especially in daytime. And people have tried to reproduce the Patterson film that the BBC tried many years ago, and it looked horrible. So if you see a movie like Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, when they did that in the early 2000s, they put on every hair by hand. It's applied by glue to the skin. They're not baggy. They're not baggy suits, and we've had people talk about that. I even talked to the fellow who designed the original Planet of the Apes, and asked him whether or not he had done it. And this is before he died, and he said that wasn't his doing in any case. So one of the more interesting things recently, M.K. Davis, who's a very interesting researcher that provides a lot of support for the GCBRO, he showed me his background's in astrophysics, and he showed me some filtering he'd done on the Patterson suit, particularly on the chest area. And most people, I think, know by now that Patty is a female, and that there are these kind of breasts that kind of sway as she turns around. That's really hard to reproduce. If you're just building a suit, why would you bother engineering that into it? And when MK showed me some of the filtering, you could actually see kind of a darkening in the nipple area under the fur.
Oh my gosh.
And I've never seen that before. And it would be exceedingly bizarre for someone to build that into a suit, put it that way. So there's lots of good evidence that it is a real image of a Sasquatch.
And I would agree with you. I actually had a case that I was investigating of a UFO sighting here, and the person I was speaking with was related to one of the fellows that was with Patterson at the time. He shot the footage, and his story was quite interesting, and his family member absolutely swears that it was the real deal, and they went through hell after that too.
Yeah, it's Bob
I think
Gimlin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's quite interesting, the whole thing. But now I want to just shift gears a little bit, because we have somebody on the phone who I know you've been out on adventures with, and it's my friend Ruben Uriarte. And he just wants to, I'm so happy I told him to call, because we both, we all know each other. This is so cool. And Ruben just had his daughter get married, and I want to say congratulations, Ruben. I bet you're so happy. I bet you're happy and sad all at once.
Hi, Ruben.
Yeah, hey, Peter. So great to hear your voice, and so happy that you're on the show there.
Thank you.
How you been doing? I know you've been a very busy person, you and your wife, on these adventures and projects.
Yeah, we've been quite busy since we worked with Ruben and a group of investigators looking after. Here, let me cancel that.
That was quite a pleasant.
We worked on a series called Monster Hunters for TLC back in the early 2000s, and we were investigating the original Chupacabra in Puerto Rico when Chupacabra was a flying reptilian alien and not a small Mexican hairless dog. And
how does that happen?
Yeah, it's kind of morphed over, because Chupacabra's stories began in Puerto Rico.
Yes, I was there, Peter, in 1994.
Yeah,
and I was speaking with Jorge Martin, who was one of the leading researchers in Puerto Rico, and he was just telling me, he says, "Oh, we're finding the strange attacks on animals, and it's somewhat like what your cattle mutilations are in the U.S., but these are very strange, where the blood is being withdrawn from the animal." And then, of course, chupa means to suck, chupacabra, so sucking goats, because that's what this creature was doing, was attacking the goats. And when you are involved in, like we are, in investigating UFOs, we do come across other stories, from cryptozoology wise, of sightings of strange animals. And going back to the chupacabra, Peter, I see a kind of some similarities where you have a strange creature living or living close to a town, more or less, and then people are terrorized. Same thing where their pets are disappearing, and they're asking for something to be done, so they put pressure on their local government. And this is where Peter and our crew, we've had a chance to meet with the mayor, and we had so much cooperation from them, their department from their firefighters on down, and they were just sharing us so many stories of incidents that they had to investigate, as well as we meet witnesses. So I could definitely relate to the Bigfoot phenomena, where you also have people that are afraid, that want to know the answers, and there's definitely something out there, what it is or what. But these creatures tend to be very smart, very elusive, and I agree. Until we get a body, or until we find or other types of evidence, it'll remain a mystery. But we know they're out there.
Let me ask you guys both a question, because this has been something that's kind of been eating at me lately. I get really almost tired of people thinking that researching, the paranormal or cryptozoology, researching UFOs is a fringe topic. I mean, to me, this is just part of what we do as human beings. We're always researching and making new discoveries. And so how do you feel about it always being pushed over into this fringe, you've got to be a nut kind of category?
Ruben?
So I'll let you answer that first, Peter. Are you you want me to answer that real quickly?
Both of you guys. I would love to hear your answers.
Well, there's always more information out there to be researched, and I'm always and the fact that it will come at you in so many strange ways. Where I have friends who have had their own Bigfoot encounters, or I know of know of scientific researchers that are that are organized in a think tank group, but they are very much close themselves off to the public. Yet they are definitely looking at this phenomenon from their scientific point of view, and I'm able sometimes to get some interesting information on it. But I know it's out there. There's too many witnesses, just like the whole UFO phenomenon. And it doesn't matter what people think. I really do feel that it's a process of education. I think documentaries that Peters have been putting on is definitely a great valuable service, because how else are we to know? And it has you take a look at what are some of the most fascinating things that are occurring on our planet.
Yeah. Well, Erica, did you want to add something to that?
No, no, absolutely. I just want to hear your answer, your answer, because this is such a great question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't consider myself a researcher in that sense. I'm more the person documenting the researchers. But for me, what's fascinating about this particular Bigfoot phenomenon and killing Bigfoot is we've really, we were talking about Joseph Campbell earlier, okay? And we're talking about human archetypes, and there's this idea of a wild man, okay, and a hominid type creature that's out there, and it really raises fundamental questions. And our show, in having different viewpoints, and that you really start to think about, okay, how does this tie into human origins on the planet? How does this tie into developments of primates on the planet? And if we found a Bigfoot, or if we found an alien, or if we found a Bigfoot, it would have a profound impact on who we are as people on the planet. And I think the reason people respond so viscerally to this idea of killing a Bigfoot is they somehow feel like they've come to know this creature, even though there's really no firm scientific proof for it, and that somehow, killing one would mean, you're somehow killing a piece of us. And so we filmed a conference, and you'll see that in one of the episodes, in Oklahoma and Honobia, where people got quite up in arms about the notion, and we start talking about religious issues and God's creatures and the right of people to protect their property on the GCBRO side and protect their families. And there's a lot of fundamental questions that come up. The GCBRO really doesn't believe that these are human. And again, I will say, these are great guys. They're not monsters. They're really great, family guys. They've got senses of humor. They're fun to hang out with. They're smart. They're all professionals. They come from engineers and surveying and geology and specialists and police and National Guard and many other professional mountain rescue type professions. So these guys are used to making the tough decisions. They're really interested in protecting people's lives. Some of these guys get teared up when we're on the property, when we're listening to these stories from people that are shaking because of these attacks on their homes and on their pets, that, you know, our hunters they're tearing up listening to these stories, and they really want to help. And
it's so sad that they're receiving death threats.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, threatening messages.
Well, let's just call it threatening messages, and you do get that response, you know, where people seem to be more interested in protecting Bigfoot, which hasn't entirely been proven to exist by science, versus people, right? So they'll make threatening comments towards the hunters. You know, hope you all die out there. Hope Bigfoot rips your head off. You know, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, brother.
And that's not, you know, these guys are not violent. And by the way, I will say, from a gun safety standpoint, you know, these guys could teach, you know, training courses in correct use of weaponry, because they're exceedingly careful out there. They don't hire just anyone. They go through everyone goes through a vetting process to even be a member. They have to pass muster. And we actually, one of our shows explores that a little bit in new recruits. And we look at what it takes to be a member of the GCBRO. So, you know, we have storylines. We have, it's a TV show, you know. Like I said, we're not, if we followed everything the GCBRO does to the letter of the law, we'd be sitting under a bush for 6 hours, 8 hours a night, waiting for something to happen.
Well, that could be a good time. I mean, you never know.
But I will say, I'm known for bringing in the goods. Like, when I go out on a show, we were in a 950 square kilometer park, let's say 500-600 square miles in Nepal, and there were 18 tigers in the whole park. And we filmed tigers, and we got charged 3 times by tigers.
Oh my God.
We were looking for the largest Asian elephant in the world that could be related to mammoths, like a real missing link. And this is for our series, Biggest and Baddest, which is still on Wild, actually, National Geographic right now. And we found that elephant in that park, the largest elephant. It was 11 feet at the shoulder and 18,000 pounds, and we filmed it. And so I feel the same way about Bigfoot. I think I'm with the right people. I'm with the right guides, and I think we could easily get some of the best and first footage of this thing, and maybe see some more. So that's why I'm excited about it.
Oh, I'm excited to see it and to follow the crew and watch all the cast and watch what happens. And I wonder, you know, especially if Ruben can attest to this. Ruben and I were talking about getting equipment because all of us are doing this on our own dime, and it's incredibly expensive to get good footage, to get out there, do some good research. What kind of gear does this group have?
Well, they would like more, I think, in terms of thermal and that, but you know, they've amassed quite a impressive amount of weaponry over the years, and they're very serious about their hunting and their gun aficionados, and as I said, the safety is like top drawer with them. I mean, some of these guys, they don't even let when their kids were young, they couldn't even point squirt guns at each other. Like, that's how serious they are about teaching gun safety. So we have some FLIRs, some FLIR scopes and things like that.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, and for the show, one thing I'll say about our show is it's a very high production value. I've brought everything to bear from my documentary experience and producing really big specials on Animal Planet and elsewhere. and BBC and things like that. So it is, I think it's the best looking show of its kind on the air right now. We have many cameras going. We have had drones in the air for a long time on this show. And night vision, I don't like the overuse of night vision on shows that I see, because I just find it all starts to look green after a while. So
it does.
You won't see any of that in our show. You're going to see, we've got cameras that can shoot at 5,000 or 6,000 ISO, and we're shooting beautiful images even into twilight and the night, and a certain amount of night vision, a little bit of thermal, but I want to make this as real an experience and a cinematic experience for people. So it's like watching a feature film a little bit to watch our show.
Oh, and it looks absolutely beautiful to watch. You really have done a great job. And I have to say, before we go to our last break, that Ruben, if you want to stick around and you can, or do you have something to do?
Oh, yes. I'm definitely gluing in to this show. It's great.
Okay, then stick around, because we might have to ask you some questions in our next segment. But everyone, thank you so much. We've got the last segment for the evening, and we're going to ask some more questions, so get into chat room. I'm Erica Lukes. You can find me on UFOclassified.com. We're going to take a break, and we will be back in a moment.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
3 guys, no ties.
I'm truly sorry that Pistol and Boo were not declared. Protecting Australia is important.
Declare everything. I went to Australia. Thanks.
Oh, why does he sound like Ringo? He sounds like Ringo.
He did kind of, didn't he?
That's probably the most expensive PSA anyone's ever done. 3 guys, no ties. Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. Right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
The consciousness revolution has begun. Do you feel it?
Yes, we do.
Join Corinne Alyssa every Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, as she explores the layers of possibilities and sifts through the questions that many have been waiting to ask. Consciousness Revolution ponders and will answer questions that have been awakening within your DNA. Consciousness Revolution, hosted by Corinne Alyssa. Mondays, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Consciousness Revolution.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For Hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. Of course, it is Ladies' Night on KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network, so that means it is going to be a whole night of brilliant women. Up after my show is Joanna Ross on Universal Child, and then you've got the fabulous Tina Marie on Restricted Airspace, and then Solaris Blue Raven is here on Hyperspace. So stick around and just get comfy and have a great night listening to all of this talent on KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network. I am back with one of my favorite friends in the entire world, Ruben Uriarte, and a brilliant man who is an award-winning documentary filmmaker, television, an independent filmmaker. He travels and has these wonderful experiences. He's a musician. He cares about environmental issues. I mean, seriously, honestly, I don't know what to say because I think that you totally rock, Peter.
Oh, that's very kind. It's very kind. I was just going to mention other places where we've had stories of Bigfoot-like creatures, and in 2005, 2006, we were down in Venezuela, and we were doing a very big production called The Real Lost World about the search for Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World. And we had a cast and crew of about 22 people and then 50 native porters to get us to the top of this 9,000-foot plateau. We encountered giant Orinoco crocodiles along the way, and anacondas and rattlesnakes and bullet ants that'll put you in hospital. And what we were doing is tracking the stories. Like no one's ever put together how the stories of dinosaurs, flying reptiles, and of course Bigfoot, which ape human creatures appear in Arthur Conan Doyle's book in 1912. Most people just think of the dinosaurs. If you've ever seen any of those old movies of the Lost World, and they first made a film of that in 1922, I believe, a silent movie classic, and then it was done countless times, and of course inspired King Kong and later Jurassic Park. So we were there to draw a direct parallel between what was there on the ground and the native stories and encounters and what the early explorers who climbed this incredible plateau, 3 billion year old plateau, the oldest place on Earth. It's where Africa and South America split apart. And so we had an expedition to go up there, and one of the nearby hills, was a good sized plateau, was called Ape Mountain in the native language. And I asked them about that, and sure enough, they talked about, hair-covered, human-like ape creatures that weren't sort of spider monkeys, but were actually large and plodding on the ground. So we heard about Bigfoot-like creatures there, and it's a big part of Conan Doyle's story. And we also got stories from natives of flying reptiles off the top of the mountain, and that connected directly to the explorers, Im Thurn and Harry Perkins, who were there, and then they went to London in 1910 or so and talked to the Royal Geographical Society, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, of course, as well. He was there, and he listened to their stories that inspired him to write The Lost World. So we're the first people to bring together those tales, direct connection between what is really, the greatest fantasy adventure book, the first one that was written and set everything off that we know today.
Wow. I
mean,
that
amazing.
is fantastic. It is really fantastic. And I think that, it is so great. And it says a lot about your dedication that you've actually seen these projects through to, getting them out there to the public. That takes it's a big commitment to get something from an idea to on a TV show or in a documentary.
Peter's like the Indiana Jones of behind a camera.
Well, I've seen him on top of an elephant, so yes, I would agree. That's some of the pictures you sent, Peter, were just fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's always an adventure making these shows, and believe me, I've worked in the Amazon, been there 11 or 12 times, and I've also in the last 10 or 11 years, and then I've also worked in Africa recently in Uganda with mountain gorillas for Biggest and Baddest, our other series, and also man-eating crocodiles. And then we were collaring lions, the tree climbing lions in Uganda. And there's only 25 of them left, and they're attacking people's, put it this way, because of an invasive plant, farmers are bringing their cattle into the national park where they can graze safely and not be poisoned by this plant. However, lions are waiting in the national parks and eating the cattle. So then the farmers take revenge, the cattle ranchers, and they poison the carcasses. And in some cases they kill 6 lions, 40 rare vultures, jackals, hyenas, everything dies. And we provided collars for the program, and then they can track, the local Wildlife Conservation Society can track the lions and let the villages know where the lions are, and also part of an education process why it's not a good idea to poison the carcass and kill the lions. And we had a lion wake up in the middle, like the previous one had taken 4 hours. And so we were all kind of very cavalier standing around, and you'll see if you see Biggest and Baddest, which is on Nat Geo Wild, you'll see basically the lion wakes up after 30 seconds after getting the antidote, and we're all still standing there, and it only leaps to its feet, and there's a mass exodus. Everyone is running towards the jeeps, and as this lion sprints off, and could have easily taken out a couple of people, but didn't.
Wow! Oh my! You know what? That sounds familiar. I think I've actually seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. I mean, was that the scariest thing that you've encountered on a shoot?
It was up there, but I always tell people, don't underestimate the U.S. South. So I've now, with Killing Bigfoot, that we were filming part of it in the summer. July in South Texas is not fun, and the woods and swamps of Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi are as tough as anything I've encountered in Africa or in the Amazon. And like our cameraman, Todd Southgate, who shoots for James Cameron when he's down there making post-Avatar documentaries about the dams going into Brazil and things like that. Todd's been into the Amazon hundreds of times, and his clothes would just rip to shreds in Louisiana. They have these 15-foot brambles that hang down, and you look like the proverbial guy from the desert island. It just shreds your clothes. And then there's 3 kinds of poisonous snakes, copperheads, cottonmouths, and eastern diamondback rattlers. There's several varieties of very nasty plants that will give you second-degree burns. I've had, basically the worst medical condition I've ever had was getting brushed by a plant somewhere in Florida and having huge chunks of my skin fall off and gaping wounds and doctors prescribing antibiotics and steroids and antihistamines all at the same time.
Oh, that must have been a good little buzz there for you.
So it's surprising, and then you've got these little annoying chiggers, which you might be familiar with, hanging out, and we don't get those in Canada. So if you've got those crawling up your legs and up your body, they're no fun. So shooting these Bigfoot shows. It's very tough going. It's not. I mean, we don't have an elephant trying to trample us, or a rhino, but Bigfoot's out there. There's venomous creatures underfoot, and wild hogs, of course, are a big danger. And we came across at least one crazy meth lab owner who was ready to draw a gun on us, so that's a danger too.
That could be worse than that would be probably really, really frightening, because you just never know what they're going to do. They're whacked out, and oh my gosh. Well, you need to write a book about all of your adventures filming.
Yeah, it'd be fun for sure. And like I say, don't underestimate the U.S. South and surviving in those forests, and these hunters. The Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Group they're very tough, right? They've grown up in the river bottoms, and they're used to a lot of these things, but they're cautious, and they respect the wilderness. They're not happy about too much logging taking away the wildlife in the wilderness areas. They're not always happy about the fracking and things going on, so they're surprisingly concerned about they're rednecks with a heart, and they care about the wildlife in the wilderness, and like I say, they'll go out and they're gonna eat whatever they catch, so they're like that.
And isn't it nice, though, that they actually care about the environment and our natural world? I mean, that's such a switch from what I see going on around me a lot of the time. We just have no respect for the beauty of nature, and we don't have reverence for it. And I'm sure that with all of your experiences out there in the wilderness, you have just unbelievable respect.
Definitely. I think one common theme with the Bigfoot and with some of the other large creatures that we've tackled on Biggest and Baddest and now Killing Bigfoot is, you have areas that are being stripped of their forests or wetlands areas. And so some of these large predators are coming out of the forest and into human areas. And, some people think Bigfoot is frustrated. Bigfoot is having to find other food sources that, in some areas they can survive on wild hogs. Now, one thing that's different about these southern Bigfoot, and based on all the reports and the GCBRO and things they've seen, is that this creature can drop onto all fours and run at speed 20 to 30 miles an hour through the forest. And this makes it very different from what most people think of. This is a fast-moving, slender creature, and it's got to be able to move through the game trails at the height of a deer or hog.
That's incredible. And to me, I still can't help but wondering if there isn't some interdimensional aspect to this. And while we've got Ruben, I know, Ruben, you're still there probably, right? Maybe not. Are you there, Ruben?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah.
You were just taking a nap, I know. But you know what?
Ruben, no, I'm driving. But what was amazing
dear
was
Lord
Peter was
Almighty.
describing.
Do you think that there's an interdimensional aspect?
Oh, I've definitely read about it and heard about it from other people who think that they either are connected from another dimension or whatever. I mean, you get so many different points of view and the descriptions. And what really caught my attention was Peter's description of these creatures being slender, unlike the big, massive, bulky other types of Bigfoot descriptions. Because a friend of mine down in Chihuahua had told me a story of two Bigfoot encounters where a family had come across two Bigfoot-like creatures, but they were shorter and slender, and that caught my interest right away. And then had another friend of mine who went out camping somewhere close to Arizona, and he had seen a slender type looking Bigfoot, or something that he said, but it wasn't a massive type of your typical Bigfoot. But yeah, that's interesting, Peter. The four-legged creature.
Yeah, I mean, you get stories of small ones. We had a number of reports of silver-haired creatures, larger, smaller. There's also the whole idea of the dog face man running around the woods. And, the GCBRO would say they're all variations. They very much believe in a theory of inbreeding that goes on because of the limited populations of the Bigfoot. And so they're seeing three-toed, four-toed, five-toed Bigfoot. They feel the three-toed are the most aggressive due to inbreeding. Those are the ones they see most commonly attacking people's homes. And we're talking about light bulbs getting smashed at 10 feet off the ground, like repeatedly, like night after night. Again, these are properties in the middle of nowhere. Like, are these kids at night in the, like, it's be exceedingly unusual for kids to be doing something like that. And also, of course, the farm animals and the pets disappearing or finding decapitated dogs and things like that.
That's interesting. And decapitated, that would be interesting to see some of the reports on the type of animal mutilations that there are with regard to this. And I have a question from Ryan I want to get in from Texas. And he's saying, maybe Bigfoot is more intelligent than we are. Do you believe that maybe we're dealing with alien species?
Ruben?
Ruben's driving.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you the truth, I do not really know. I tend to think there might be a connection. There may not be an alien species per se. It definitely could be. What is Peter? It's a mouthful. Gigantopithecus. I can't even pronounce it.
Gigantopithecus.
Yes, I mean there's that whole theory that it might be related to them. But then again, what kind of makes it a lot different, though, is from the reports and stories that I've come across, is that they have the ability to communicate. They make sounds. And you mentioned something of a nest, Peter, earlier, and I was wondering if you could talk about that, because I know that they're very territorial. They've been, what I've seen is they've been branches, or they'll pick up trunks and kind of come up with their own, defining their territory. But I was wondering if maybe you might have talked about this already, but you hadn't mentioned nests.
Well, you'll see in the show that one of the things the GCBRO does is they're on the lookout all the time for signs that Bigfoot have been on the property. Before they even investigate, they want to check the credibility of the story. They want to see whether or not they can find actual tracks. We had at least one case of a handprint that was quite unmistakable, like a huge kind of monstrous size handprint. We also have things, they feel that Bigfoot leaves markers to other Bigfoot, that if this is their territory, they will leave X markations. They will bend over saplings in unusual ways. They'll find things that could only have been bent over by something, and because of what's growing underneath it, they can tell if it's been done recently or if it grew that way. And so they're looking for markers, and then protected areas, nest areas. What was unusual about these things we found is they actually seemed to be suspended off the ground, and they were older. And you'll see in the show how we do investigate it, and it was definitely unusual. The owners also felt that there had been some UFO activity, that there was a huge flattened out area that they could even see on a Google Earth type thing in their area. So, you never know, right?
I know. I mean, you honestly don't. I think Ruben and Ruben knows all about Skinwalker Ranch and different areas like that. You just never know what you'll have that comes together, and where one phenomenon takes over and where the other begins. And I think that the point is that we just don't have a clue. And so I hope that we can all at some point work together and share information so we can learn more and solve these mysteries. But I have one more question that's coming in from Kathy in California, and she's asking the question, Peter, with your title of the show, Killing Bigfoot, what are the insurance liabilities that the show has? Let's say if somebody dressed up like Bigfoot and wanted to make some money, got shot by somebody in the crew.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me because, okay, so walking into an area where there's people with guns, and then imitating a large furry animal to try and make money, you're just as likely to get shot by anybody if you're dressed as a large furry animal in some of these areas. So you'd have to be pretty foolish to do so. From our perspective, we have, a gun safety guy on our crew. The guys are very they run around in ghillie suits, and at night they're in ghillie suits, and they're positioned, and you'll see that they're 99% of the time they're told to stay in a blind and not move, and they communicate by radio, and they have their orders when they can move and when they can't move. Essentially at night, if there's a hairy creature walking around without a flashlight, chances are 99.999% that it's a Bigfoot and not a human. So nobody's stumbling around in the dark without a light. And
so has the firearm ever been discharged while you were shooting the show?
We do some target practice, and we do some stuff at the shooting range, and for the rest of it, you'll just have to watch the show. You never know what's going to crop up.
Oh, you made it work, and you're not going to give me some spoilers? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Peter, how many episodes did you put together?
We've done 6. That seems to be the standard these days. So 6 hours on Destination America. Canadians have already been lucky enough to see the show on Travel and Escape. Destination America wanted to do a fall release rather than the summer when the audience is a little stronger. So watch for that for sure. And it's a really different show. I think it's going to appeal to a wide range of people, like people maybe who enjoy Duck Dynasty, people that don't typically watch cryptid shows or paranormal shows, only because there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of fascinating people to meet. There's great stories here of mysteries of what's going on.
And it sounds so fascinating. I can't wait to start watching it. I'm going to have a little party and have everybody over here. And Peter, we've got to get ready to wrap it up. Yeah. Oh, and sorry, go ahead, Ruben. Will it be available?
Oh, will it be available on DVD? We have it for sale later?
Yes, eventually that will happen. And I think, no doubt, on iTunes and that sort of thing as well. And watch our our killingbigfoot.com website and also Killing Bigfoot on Facebook. Please like that site. That would be great. And we answer a lot of questions there as well. And especially ones that aren't mean to our hunters. I mean, I like
Absolutely, and I'm so sorry, Peter. We've got to just close the show, but I will post everything about it, and I will keep all my listeners, up to date with what's happening and share information. And we'll get you back on the show very, very soon. So thank you so much, and thanks, Ruben, for calling in. I love it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh
Thank
my
you,
gosh! And I hope all of you out there have thank you. I hope you have a fabulous Friday. Make sure you stick around because it's going to be a great night of ladies on KCOR. I'm Erica Lukes. Find me on UFOclassified.com. Have a great and safe weekend. We'll see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio